everybody. I'm Howard Kellerman. Welcome to Kellerman's Corner. This week, we'll talk to former Major League catcher Sal Butera. He's also a former Indianapolis Indian, and his son Drew currently is a Major League catcher. We'll be back with Sal after these words. Sal Butera is our guest this week, and Sal played in the major leagues for a number of years. He's also a former Indianapolis Indian, and he's been in baseball in his post-playing days for a long time. Sal, how's everything going?
Very good, Howard. It's been a busy season. I think we've come out of the pandemic, and I think hopefully I work for the Toronto Blue Jays. Hopefully, we submitted a proposal to go back into Sky Dome, I think, on the 30th of this month. Hopefully, that'll be passed, and we can be playing in Toronto, Major League City, in our home ballpark very soon.
Tell us about your responsibilities with the Blue Jays.
Well, I work for the scouting department. I operated with my evaluations for trades and acquisitions. We just pulled off a trade a couple of days ago for Rowdy Tellez to Milwaukee. I basically go to a club and look at the players and decide on who might be a good fit for us. And then it allows our organization to make decisions based on fresh looks.
Well, it's wonderful that you are scouting, doing well. And I think most baseball fans realize that analytics have played such a big role. And there's been a de-emphasis on scouting in several organizations, but some still do employ their scouts and they really rely on them. Others do not.
Yeah, that's very true. Our organization, I think, has a nice blend. I think we obviously, like most organizations, use the analytics to our advantage. But at the same time, that's one side of it. We use a lot of different methods to come up with equations to figure out whether a player is a good fit or not. And then, of course, you have to lay eyes on the player. You have to see the player in its natural habitat to see how he actually functions. And so it's a nice combination of all three facets, I think.
Yeah, it used to be that they would say scouts are the lifeblood of the game. And how has amateur scouting been affected by analytics? You're involved in professional scouting.
I am, but I do a fair amount of amateurs as well at different times. Obviously, there's a lot more data now. There used to be a kid in high school, you'd have to really beat the bushes to see him play. Now there's data on almost every young man, whether it be through these showcases or tournaments that they play. The better players do get more availability. They do. They're out there more often and seen more often. So and the data, it backs it up. And certainly when you get to college, there's no secrets anymore. So the information there is way more readily available to a scout to kind of set the tone for what you're going to see.
Go back to 1984. You and I met. Actually, I met you when you were in Evansville the year before. Your son Drew was born. But 1984, Indianapolis Indians, your thoughts when you look back at that season?
That was an amazing year. I got to play that season. I just signed as a free agent with Montreal. I was with the Tigers the year before. And a close friend who I worked with the Twins, a guy named Bob Gebhardt, was working for Montreal at that time and signed me as a free agent. I went to big league camp and I was kind of like the insurance policy, and went to Indianapolis and had a really fine year. We had a great team, good coaching staff, played in the old ballpark, not the new one that they have now. Certainly, it was a turning point, basically getting myself back to the big leagues.
And then 3 years later, you were a member of the world champion Minnesota Twins.
Yeah. It's I played for Montreal for 2 years, then was traded to Cincinnati for a year, and then ironically went to camp in '87 with the Reds, thinking that I had a good chance to go to a World Series. We had a great team. Unfortunately, a plethora of injuries made my job somewhat expendable. They tried to run me through waivers, and of course, Minnesota picked me up in early this season, and the rest is history. We had to win the World Series with them, so it was a good year.
What was remarkable about that World Series is the home team won each of the 7 games.
Yeah, they said we had a home field advantage because we played in the Homer Dome, and it was a very home team friendly ballpark. The noise was very loud. The turf was very bouncy. They accused of wind manipulating the wind inside, and we had lights in center field that supposedly helped the hitters hit. But in all honesty, it was the fact that it was just we played there more often. I remember one incident in the World Series. Whitey Herzog was the manager of the Cardinals, and he had come out, or one of his players had come out and said, the noise really won't bother us very well. But the noise inside the dome was, I think, it was equivalent to a 727 jet taking off at that time.
Wow.
And ironically, during that first game in our ballpark, the pitcher, I think it was Joe McGrain, if I'm not mistaken, we knocked him out, I think, in the 3rd or 4th inning. And as he's walking off the field, he took the earplugs out of his ears to blot out the noise. So yeah, it was a loud place. It was a very friendly place, the confines, and certainly we took it to our advantage.
Kirby Puckett from that ball club, Hall of Famer. Tell us about him and playing with him.
Kirby was not only an outstanding player in every aspect, he was a great teammate. He would make you feel just as great as he is. And I'll give you an example. One day we're taking batting practice together, and he came over to me and he said, the only difference between you and me is that I have the ability to be great more often. Now, that obviously wasn't very true. I wasn't the player Kirby was, but he made me feel like I was. And that's the kind of guy he was, on and off the field. He was had a passion for life, a passion for the game, and he exuded it on the field.
Tell us some highlights besides that Twins World Championship team that stand out from your playing days.
Yeah. The first one was that we were, when I joined the club, we were right around 500. We had great talent. We had Herbeck at first and Gaetti at third, Bernansky, Puckett, to name a few. But we didn't have a great pitching staff. We had Frank Viola and Bert Blyleven, and then the rest of the starting staff were a bunch of no-names, actually, at that time. And I remember we went into play a series in Boston and Detroit. I want to say it was probably in July, and we got annihilated. We were outscored 24-3 on that road trip, lost all 6 games. And as we're leaving the ballpark in Boston after the 6th straight loss, our manager, who was a phenomenal manager, Tom Kelly, got onto the bus, and we're all down and, we're all upset from getting killed again. And he said, boys, if you got them, light them, and it's meaning cigars, because we're going to go home and we're going to kick butt. And we had an 11-game homestand with Oakland, Anaheim, and Seattle coming up. And we went 9-2, and we never looked back.
That's one of the fascinating things about baseball, is that you can have a run where you really struggle and immediately turn it around. And that doesn't happen in the other sports the way it does in baseball.
No, you have to be, the one good thing about our club was it was very resilient, and we didn't have any major injuries. So all of our key players had really big years. And you need that to win a World Series. It's hard in this day and age. They replace players with the 10-day IL rather freely. In my generation, if a player got hurt, it was 15 days, and it was hard to replace. It's hard to replace a Puckett or a Gaetti or a Herbeck. So we were injury free, and then we started some of the complementary players started really coming through. A guy named Les Straker, who wound up being our 3rd starter, really started pitching well. And our bullpen, I will say, was very consistent all year. We had Jeff Rinnan as a closer, Juan Berenguer as a setup guy, Keith Atherton. We had a lot of good, strong arms that were durable and versatile, and they had a lot of versatility. So they had a lot of value, and Tom Kelly knew how to run a bullpen. So they never were overworked, and certainly it paid off at the end.
We'll talk more with Sal Butera after these messages. Former Major League catcher Sal Butera is our guest. Sal, how has the position of catching changed in recent times?
Well, it's evolved, Howard. It hasn't. I won't say it changed. I know if you watch a game today, you'll see a lot more catchers on one knee, because of the framing aspect. They're trying to present the ball easier for the umpire, and some would say they're trying to deceive the umpire. But in reality, we did that back in my day. I think Tony Pena was the first one that I actually saw do it. I incorporated a lot with nobody on base. It's much easier for you as a catcher from the wear and tear factor. And you do present the ball in a good fashion. You give a good target. In most cases, back in those days, it was a low target. Now it fluctuates because everybody's worried about a spin race. So the ball, that ball is pitched up in the zone more often because there's a lot more velocity in this day and age. So you'll see a lot of guys on one knee, but they're standing up a little bit taller in their setup. But we never did it with men on base. We felt like in my generation and even afterwards, and even today, I still think a catcher gives up too much trying to block and throw if there's men on base in those situations, because you're very vulnerable to the pitcher not throwing the ball where you want it. If he spikes the ball per chance, if a ball moves, you're locked in that position. With nobody on base, it doesn't really affect you because if it goes by you, there's no damage. But certainly I've seen it this year on numerous occasions with runners at third base. Catcher can't get in position to block a ball. Ball goes by him and the run scores. Or a guy's stealing and you have to get, you don't get a pitch that's up in the zone and you have to reach out for a ball. You can't get that push towards second base to make an accurate throw and an on-time throw. So I think it's got a place, but certainly I think it's overused in a lot of factors right now. I wouldn't recommend it full time. I think it's okay to protect yourself and as well as protect your legs somewhat, but you're also very vulnerable. I've seen a number of catches. I think Garver with Minnesota took a foul tip in his groin area and had required surgery because you are wide open. If the ball's foul tipped, you have no protection in certain areas of your body. Your shin guards, if you're on a knee, do you no good because it is one side of your body that's wide open. So that's just my opinion.
Well, it's very well said. Now, the other aspect, how about calling a game in that with hitters uppercutting and launch angle, we hear a sinker is not quite the effective pitch, all things being equal, that it used to be.
Yeah, I would say there's some validity to that, but I also I'll argue the point. If you have a good sinker, just like if you have a good changeup, they work. And guys still roll over. They still don't make good contacts on good sinker ball pitchers. I think there are a lot more obviously fly balls in this day and age because guys pitch up in the zone and guys want to elevate. So I still think you have to call a game based on your pitcher's strengths. And if you have a guy on the mound that's got a power sinker at 92-4, I think you have to use it. If you have a pitcher that has a plus changeup, you have to use it. Those are weapons, and I think weapons play into how you call a game. And I think you have to. A catcher today has to have imagination. And I say that because going to game, your game plan is more of a guideline. You go to the bullpen, you watch him throw, and you see what he's got. And I remember a story. It's a real quick story, but I was catching a gentleman by the name of Mike Flanagan when I was with the Blue Jays when I was finishing up my career. And Mike was a great pitcher. He had some really good years with the Orioles. And he was late in his career at that time as well. And this one particular Saturday afternoon, we were playing the Twins. And he goes to the mound. I caught him in the bullpen. He didn't have much. He walks the first two hitters. So I call timeout and I go to the mound. And, back in those days, you could say something, what was on your mind. You didn't have to sugarcoat it at all. And I told him, I said, Mike, you don't have anything today. He goes, I know. I said, from here on out, I want to just throw curveballs. I said, curveballs every pitch? He goes, yes, until I can figure out the fastball. I want to throw a curveball. I didn't even give him a sign. And lo and behold, he wound up going 7 1/3 innings. So I think you have to be able to improvise. You have to have imagination. And like most good catchers, they have plan B and plan C ready to go. And you can't wait in this day and age, because if you give up runs, it's, the damage is already done.
Shifts are something that's talked about often. They talk about maybe outlawing them. It's so ironic because it used to be when you go into a shift, you were saying, okay, we'll give you a single, just don't hit the long ball. And now, when you're down by 2 runs in the 9th inning, you need a base runner any way possible, yet teams are still in a shift, figuring you're not going to go against the grain and go the other way or lay down a bunt. So let's get your thoughts on that whole scenario.
And to your point, I see guys shifting now in counts where they'll have a 2-1 count and they'll shift from a shift. I personally think hitters, it's tough to hit these days, Howard. Everybody's talking about offensive numbers being down. I think one reason why is because back in my generation, and even the generation after me, if you went into a game, you were pretty much assured of getting at least 2, probably 3 at bats off the starting pitcher. In today's game, the way they use pitchers, and as many as you have them on a club, if you're a bottom of the order hitter, you might have to face 3 and sometimes 4 different pitchers on a given night. And most of the guys that come out of the bullpen are throwing 94 or 5 plus. So that to me is what makes it tough to hit, is you're facing a different guy. You might time the starter and feel pretty comfortable off him, and all of a sudden you're facing a guy that maybe potentially is a situational guy solely to get your side out. So that to me is a big part of it.
You've achieved so much in your playing and post-playing days, and I know you're also very proud of your son, Drew, a catcher who's caught for many years and caught some no-hitters.
Yeah. He surpassed me. He went by me in years of service. He caught 2 no-hitters. He's been on a World Series team. As a matter of fact, I think there's a couple of trivial things that we're one of just a select handful of guys, a father and son, that have actually won the World Series. And I think we're the only tandem, player-wise, to ever pitch in a game outside of not being a pitcher. So yeah, he's had a great career. He's played. I played 17 years. This is his 17th year. He's still playing. He's still performing. And so yeah, I'm very proud of him. He's had a phenomenal career, and I couldn't ask for more.
What about fathers, sons who are catchers besides yourself? I don't know of anybody off the top of my head who are both catchers, fathers and sons.
No, I don't. Off the top of my head, I don't. I know there was the Boone family, but both his sons did not catch. Barra's family, I know in Barra's family, obviously his son played as an infielder. I don't. We might be the only ones. I don't know. To be perfectly honest with you, I have no idea.
Did you see him, and how to help him growing up around the game, being around you, being in clubhouses and so forth?
I think it did in some respects, but he was never a catcher. He was a middle infielder. He was a shortstop until he got to. Matter of fact, an amazing story was, as a junior in high school, he came to me and he said, "Dad," he goes, "How will I be able to play at the next level?" And the next level was college, not professional ranks. He was very small. He was 5'4", about 120 pounds, as a junior in high school. And I told him, I said, "Son," I said, "you have great hands, a really good arm." I said, "But you're not very strong. You're not very big physically." I said, "I don't think you could play the infield because you're not fast enough. You're not strong enough to play a corner spot." So I said, "If you want to try to go behind the plate, you could try it." And he said, "I'll do it." I said, "I'll try it." And ironically, the college and professional ranks have 2 really good showcases in the summer. One's the East Coast Showcase put on by Major League Scouts. And the other one is the area code games, also put on. But there's a lot of colleges that obviously recruit over those tournaments. So luckily I had pulled some strings, and I got him on both in both tournaments. He had never caught before, and he went behind the plate, and it was a very humbling and to say the least, scary situation for him because he was catching guys that were throwing in the low 90s at that time, having never caught before. So it was for him, it was an eye opener. But by the time he got to the area code games, you could start to see that he was getting more and more comfortable. And then it was up to God. It was more to see if he grew, if he got stronger. And he went to college. He went to local school in Florida, UCF. The head coach I knew personally gave him an opportunity to play as a freshman. And the rest is history. He grew, he got bigger and stronger. And I think in his junior year, I think he finished third in the Johnny Bench Award category, and now is a member of their Hall of Fame. So, yeah, he achieved a lot of success by changing positions.
That's great. Great story. You and Drew both are great stories. Sal, wonderful spending time with you. Thank you so very much.
Howard, it's been always a pleasure. I look forward to it many more times, and I hope to get to Indianapolis this year, potentially maybe in August or September.
That would be terrific. That's Sal Butera. We'll have more in just a moment. Thanks to our guest, Sal Butera. Catchers are very special people. See you next week on Kelman's Corner.